Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Bad Movie Reviews podcasts, hosted by myself, Ben, and Daniel here. You can, of course, join us every week on all major podcast platforms and, of course, obviously the visual aspect on YouTube. We just launched that pretty much this week under Bad Movie Reviews, but this week we'll be touching on one of my highly anticipated films of the year, actually, Nope, Jordan Peele's follow-up to Us and Get Out. But before that, we'll touch on a bit of movie news. We don't really have a lot this week. This one actually excited me. So for anyone who doesn't know, me and Daniel play a little bit of games, but Ghosts of Tsushima. Tsushima.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. The director, Chad Stahelski, who has done all 4 John Wick films, is actually wanting to get a all Japanese cast and the film to be fully spoken in Japanese.
I think that's fantastic. The way the game was designed too, it was very much done to do like that. And you can also have that mode too where you play.
Well, yeah, you can play it in fully Japanese.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of obviously like the ability to obviously cast that, I know it's Sony, which is obviously a Japanese studio. Like some studios might not actually be for that, but in terms of like realistically, in terms of that, that's a fantastic thing for, I guess, in just like in terms of representation, like really, especially in like it's probably going to be a pretty big budget movie, if that makes sense. So like it's not going to be like just an indie movie with $10 million budget. It was a pretty successful game, but I really like that idea. Obviously, they've got a great director who's done some great action movies. Obviously, all 4 John Wicks. Was a stunt coordinator before directing movies, so kind of obviously knows how action works. But, I'm really keen on that. Next one is another DC thing. Obviously, we chatted about Batgirl getting cancelled. This week, there's a bit of controversy around Ezra Miller again, obviously The Flash. So they're actually contemplating, they've got 3 options here that I've written down that apparently Warner Bros. Discovery, they're apparently either going to set out a press release and have Ezra Miller explaining and apologising the whole situation and have limited press. Part 2 is he plays no part in the film's promotion, so he won't do press junkets, go to premieres. Or part 3 is the film gets scrapped completely.
Wowee. Well, that's pretty full on. Has he actually been booked for it? As in, So
he was, I've got a timeline here. In March, he was arrested in Hawaii for disorderly conduct and harassment. Following up, there was in April that some woman's parents came out and said, oh, he's holding her fucking
16-year-old daughter.
The 16-year-old daughter. April, he was taking into custody again for throwing a chair at a woman that hit her. Recently, so the parents of that woman, there was another thing here. Basically, he didn't show up to court, which was the main thing. And then I believe, so this woman's come out and said that he basically attacked her physically and all these sexual encounters where he was grooming her. And so he's not just a one and done kind of, I threw a chair at a woman when I was drunk or something. It's
pretty messed up.
He's got serious issues, if we put it bluntly. It'd be interesting. I don't see how they can cancel it. They've already obviously gotten rid of Batgirl, as you're aware, and Warner Bros. Obviously got rid of Scoob, but it is a $200 million movie. Like when you really think about it, what option do you have?
None. Yeah, it's a massive loss to let alone get rid of Batgirl, and then if they were to remove this as a film too, that's just so much loss for it. I know they can somehow tax right off it, but still, it's not great for DC.
If they write it off,
not great for
they
film.
can never release it. That's the thing. So, and I know the test screenings are actually quite positive for this.
Oh, that's good.
I don't see how they can't, realistically, I can see them reshooting something and him doing a flashpoint back in time and then it's just a different Flash or a different world Flash and then just recast him. I don't see how they can't do that, add a couple million in and just do a reshoot, and that's kind of fixed majority of your issues, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of stay aware in this space. We'll let you know if it happens. But next bit of news I'm actually keen for. I didn't know they were making another one, but Kung Fu Panda 4 has been announced for March 8th, 2024. So obviously it's got a bit of time to come out, but it's been a while since the third one. I reckon at least 8 years.
Too long. too long.
They're very underrated movies, actually.
Very, very underrated. One of my favorite, and they also made a fantastic video game which I played several hours on too.
Can't say I did.
enjoyed.
The other one which I'm actually relatively keen for, Sonic 3, has been greenlit and announced.
Awesome.
The only thing I'm not sure about is it's coming out the same day as Avatar 3, which Avatar 2 hasn't even come out, but Avatar 3 is penned in for December 20th, I think, 2024. So still another 2 years away, but previously Sonic's done really well and it's always released like early March. It gets like a couple weeks of, or in Australia, I don't know about US, UK, but it gets a couple wind of like good press and then school holidays happen here.
Yeah.
Makes a bunch of money. So like, obviously December's still school holidays, but they're probably going to be really competing because like you've got the Boxing Day films, obviously that's like Christmas Day, obviously like in America, you have all those big films come out. So it's an interesting thing to do, I must say, to be honest, because they've only really released them early in the year when there's not much going on. So to release it in peak holiday season, obviously I don't know if they've got a great script together or they're just really confident in the product, in the movie, but that's an interesting one. The other one, I haven't actually written it down here, but you did tag me in it, is Tom Cruise came out and said he wants to, we did touch on episode 1, Tropic Thunder. Tom Cruise wants to come back and reprise
Fantastic.
that role. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Neither. He plays about the 4 minutes of the best, worst film you'll ever see.
Oh, no, it's not even a bad film. But the other thing is Christopher McQuarrie, who's the director of, who produced Top Gun, the new one, but the director of like the last 4 Mission Impossible films, is actually directing a musical with Tom Cruise.
That's interesting.
I'm all for a good musical. We chatted about this about Joker last week.
Yeah.
Like, I love a good. Musicals are so hard to make. Like, I actually give my top respect. Like, even the shit ones, like whatever. But to make a movie and to have the music kind of run cohesively, even if it like mixes in the story, it's like to write good, catchy songs as well.
Yeah.
Huge respect for musicals. But Tom Cruise, I remember he was in
Is he a singer?
Rock of Ages. You never remember that film?
Rock of Ages. Yeah,
He was the main character in that, and he did like rock singing in that. But he had like the massive, like long. He was obviously playing an '80s rock star. He had the huge wig, but I'm all for it. I'm keen as a
I'm not against it. Yeah,
I'm keen as for that. But other than that, there's not much in the space of movie news this week. It's a pretty quiet time of the year, really. But other than that, you don't really have anything to touch on.
No, nothing extra. The only thing that I was gonna kind of half touch on with the Ghost of Tsushima is I'd be worried if they made it all in Japanese, which I think it deserves to be all done in Japanese, every single aspect, both how it's spoken and the cast, 100% all Japanese. I think that's very important. But I'd be worried about it being so specifically Japanese that they might lose some of those people that really enjoyed the game, because some people just, movies and text together just don't work for them. So I wonder if that's like a market there that they'll obviously explore to. Well,
there's been a lot of films recently that have been foreign movies have done really well financially. This would probably be like a first of its kind, which I'm actually really keen for in terms of like a big budget. Like you've obviously got Parasite, which won the Best Picture in 2019, I believe, but Cinema Nova, like one of the local auteur like cinemas in Melbourne, like that's its best performing film of the year, and that was Korean. There are some really like successful foreign films in terms of budget. It's just it'd probably be the first of its kind that probably would have, your $100 million budget at least. Obviously being a period piece, you've got a lot more money going into that. Yeah. But and obviously the director is relatively popular. But if you really think about the kind of with the people obviously that'll play the game, I can see them getting around it really. So it's like I do see it. Like but the main any other film company, I don't see really doing it, but obviously Sony is attached to Helmet. Obviously, they're it's their game.
Yeah.
Being a Japanese studio, I can kind of see it being more of a possibility, really. So who knows? It'll obviously that's what Chad has come out and actually said, which I kind of obviously wanted to talk about, but that hasn't necessarily been confirmed. But realistically, you're obviously going to have an all Japanese cast.
I think it's
already that's the main thing. But obviously, spoken in terms of the dialect being all Japanese would be really cool. But other than that, film news, that's pretty much all we have to touch on this week. So we obviously saw Nope, so Jordan Peele's Nope, the other night. So we've had about 2 days to kind of dissect it, and we will chat about the film and give our sort of slight review, but we will be the type of film it is. It probably deserves a deep dive discussion where there'll probably be a little bit of spoiler chat. So we will quickly touch on the movie, and then we'll probably go into kind of deep dive discussion. So I'll let you touch on it first. What did you?
I think I started the podcast with saying the same thing last time. I very much enjoyed it. It was a great film. Thought it was an absolute spectacle. I thought a lot of the cinematography, a lot of those unique shots were just absolutely unreal. It had a very kind of similar suspense as kind of like Get Out did, delivering kind of like some horror kind of elements, but more of its own unique kind of take on that experience. I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was very well cast, very well acted. Just most of all, really enjoyed the film. What about yourself? How did you feel about it?
I really enjoyed it. I thought I've always enjoyed Jordan Peele's films. This one, I wasn't obviously quite sure what to know heading in. I think the marketing was obviously a little bit more secretive. Get Out obviously had the twist, but Us was very much just kind of like the twist in the film as well, whereas this, no idea what obviously was going to take place heading in. But in terms of the craft side of it, I thought it was phenomenal. It's probably like in terms of film craft, top 3 of the year for me. Like the cinematography, it's probably one of the best shot movies I've seen in terms of nighttime scenes. Like the ability to actually see everything that was happening was sort of second to none. I've never seen that in a night film. The use of IMAX, we saw it in the local IMAX theater. Like the use of IMAX with all the scenes was, if you can see it at IMAX, I'd highly recommend it. The performances, I agree. Daniel Kaluuya, who plays OJ, was fantastic. He actually has, one thing I noticed is he has this ability, like he's great with silence. Not necessarily dialogue, he's great with silence in his eyes.
Yeah,
there's scenes where he won't speak, but he's like, and you really kind of conveys that emotion. Keke Palmer, who's his sister, I thought was probably the best of the cast. I thought she was fantastic. But it's the first 2/3 of the film really, like I was all in. It kind of took a real big turn in the last sort of third, which we will chat about. I'm still not sure how I really felt about it, but I feel like it is definitely one of those movies that the more you watch it, probably the more you'll pick up, first of all, and the more you'll probably interpret a lot of things. It is one of,
I agree.
Us probably not so much. Get Out, Get Out not so much, but Us is, everyone had sort of their own interpretations with that film. This is definitely one of them, and I think that everyone will dissect it differently, but I loved it. I'll probably watch it a few more times and sort of in the future see how I feel, and that'll change. But other than that's really all I've got to touch on. I highly recommend seeing it. IMAX if you can.
There was another point that you made post the movie when we watched it is how well directed and designed, even the amount of scenes that were in daylight. Because there was
you never see many horror films doing that.
horror films in daylight, and it really delivered on a lot of that and still built that kind of atmosphere and suspense.
Yeah, which you probably it probably wasn't much of a horror as I was it was more of a thriller, but there's definitely your horror elements, and Jordan Peele's ability to sort of merge horror, thriller, suspenseful, but also like have comedic moments.
Definitely.
There's probably not really many people working like that today, and obviously he had his history with his comedic skits with Kay and Peele and things like that. But it was his ability to obviously build suspense in daylight is something I've never seen before, which I'm all for it really. But other than that, in terms of non-spoilery discussions, do you have anything to touch on? Or
no, that's pretty much it. Great film. Definitely go watch it.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. We'll have a quick break there. I'll give you the heads up. Obviously, if you're listening on audio, we're going to obviously deep dive in the film. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend probably tuning out or jumping to the mark that we'll put in. But we'll be back in a second, and we'll chat all things spoilers. All right, welcome back. So, if you've obviously tuned out, this is you won't be here, but if you're still tuning, you've probably seen Nope and listening to our sort of deep dive discussion and a little bit of spoilery chat. So, I guess there'll be specific moments I'll kind of want to touch on in terms of the film that really kind of conveyed deep not emotions, but like sort of. There was one specific moment, I forgot the word entirely, claustrophobic.
Yep.
Can't remember the name of the UAP. Is that what they called it?
The UAP.
Well, it was UFO, and then they changed it to UAP. But when that sucked up all the people at the show, and it shows them all getting sucked up, and like in IMAX, the screen essentially went like fully in, and it was all black, and you just saw the person like crawling. I actually felt genuinely like sick almost. Like I was like, in terms of the craft, I was like, this is unreal. But I genuinely felt almost sick at that point in time. I just wanted to bring that up. It's very random. But one thing I wanted to chat, like, because it is a little bit of spoilery, but in terms of this film, I think the sound design is one of the best sound design I've ever heard. Like the subtle screams of the victims flying through the sky in every scene, like it was just really creepy. Oh, yeah. And obviously the scene with the little people, like the little kids,
kids dressed up in the
costume. That really was
uncomfortable.
Horrifying.
Is definitely the word I would use to explain that. I was sitting there like, okay, I see where we're going. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. This is not okay. Like,
it's one of those scenes where we actually had people in the cinema go, like audibly gasp, like out loud, including one of the, shout out to Corey, who we went with, including him, who scared like a piece of shit. Like I literally
that man jumped.
felt a jump 4 seats away. If you get scared, you get scared. But other than that, in terms of cinematography that I wanted to chat about, like the scene where the house is getting rained on, but it's blood.
Yes.
I was like, this is like painfully like just like imagery that'll be stuck in my head. And I feel like in future times, it's like you go back to certain horror films with imagery, like one not so much, but like Insidious, a lot of people think about that shot with Patrick Wilson where the devil's behind him. It's one of those images that I think will just be like iconic horror shot or image.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
In terms of, obviously this kind of goes into, it's probably not in terms of spoiler discussions, but it obviously spoils certain moments. But those are kind of bits I wanted to talk about that I just loved and like really fucked me up like, in terms of the film. But
it's the best way to describe it.
Was there anything you wanted to, like, you felt in terms of certain moments, or before we go into, like, I guess the theories and our thoughts with certain moments?
Audio was definitely unreal, exactly like what you touched on. I thought it was one of the most beautifully audible films. It was just so well designed. Every single aspect, from the creatures to the creaking of the house to, all the stuff of the when the horse gets sucked up and is flying away, like they get the people screaming, but that horse too is like the distant scream of pain. I was like, that was awesome. I loved that in every aspect. The house scene will live in my mind forever as one of the most beautifully disgusting things I've ever seen. And I love that, when it comes over and the rain stops and it's like then the rain starts and it's all like blood and it's all messed up.
The one thing that I can kind of think about with that specific scene where I was like, that's fucking disgusting, is the scene in I think, where she's like washing her hands or something, and then the sink explodes and blood just explodes on it.
I don't remember that as much.
I
didn't really enjoy it too.
No, like much. It wasn't a great movie, but I was like, that makes me feel sick. Like that, imagine just standing there and you're like, blood's raining on your house. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, perfectly agree.
Other than that,
not as messed up as Mother. Mother's one of those films that really,
that film
really touched me good up.
That film ruined me for life. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is I think this film, funnily enough, has the best use of its title in any film I've ever seen. Like the use of just Nope. Like I was like, that's me. That'd actually be me in this situation, 100%. But other than that, yeah, that's kind of all I guess I wanted to touch on in terms of our like little moments in the film. But in terms of theories and your thought process on obviously what kind of the film was trying to portray, and not so much portray, but you understand what I'm obviously saying in terms of what the film kind of stood for and little bits you took out of it. Was there anything sort of you wanted to touch on, or did you want me to start off?
I'm happy for you to take this one. I do have my own kind of theories, but I don't want to repeat exactly what you say.
Sure. I've got a few notes here. Obviously, it's not something I remember. A few notes, but I'll delete that one because that one what I did notice is in terms of, I think it stood for a lot in terms of media and Hollywood in general. What I kind of understood is it's kind of like, I guess, or in terms of my interpretation, it's like how people view tragedy and how people will monetize that. And I think it stood something for like media constantly eating itself. So something terrible might happen. People make money off it, consume media. Specifically, you've got, obviously at the start of the movie, you have OJ, who's the main character. His father dies. Rather than obviously dealing with that grief, his thing, obviously, after he sees the UFO, he goes, wanting to capture on video. They go buy their video.
Yeah.
They go to, for their Oprah shot. And he never essentially came to terms with obviously the passing of his father, and he thought money. He's like, yep, money, we'll get our horses back, all that. You had obviously Ricky as well, or Juno, I forgot his name. Jupe. Is his name Jupe or Ricky? The show. No. Forgot his name, but he obviously didn't deal with the trauma and grief from the Gordy attack, which is the monkey. And he turned, on top of that, he obviously turned the alien into a spectacle for where he would eat horses, and he'd turn that into a spectacle making money. You had obviously even the director, you had him pretty much get all the shots you could ask for, and then not necessarily getting the perfect shot, literally sacrificed himself to do so. And I think it stood for how a lot of people nowadays, in terms of like social media influencers, they will only let like the public see best versions of themselves while essentially selling their soul almost. Like, on the face of death, you also had that TMZ driver. Who literally
MTV?
TMZ.
Was it
TMZ? So like the news source. You had him literally in the face of death. And the first thing he goes is, pass me my camera. I want to get this. Like, because the alien was about to fucking suck him up almost.
Yeah.
So I thought it stood for a lot in terms of Hollywood and how people will monetize tragedies and kind of how fucked up that is.
I agree.
Is there anything I guess you wanted to touch on in regards to what I've just said? Or
No, that was one of the points that I was going to make, but that's why I wanted you to take it over, because I knew you could explain a little bit better than myself. But definitely it's about sacrificing everything for that kind of 1 minute of fame. And I think that was what I kind of took out of it after our discussion. The people will look at tragedy as profitable. They will look at every kind of scenario as something they can make money off. And it was okay to get to the point of killing yourself for that 30 seconds of popularity to get that little bit of money, because that's more important than anything else. And I thought that was also explored with a little bit of the gaudy side of stuff. So the show was exploiting animals for profit, also exploiting, the animals for the overall personal gain of, I guess, themselves. But also the character, the boy who obviously is in the gaudy scene and then he's an adult. During the film, he tries to get his 30 seconds of fame again because it's more important to him than having a normal life or dealing with any issue he's had. So he'd have that show on where he's got all these people to come in and it's all exclusive and you have to pay to go there to see all their all special stuff. And he's okay, once again, sacrificing the lives of an animal for the gain of himself, the horse.
He's sorry, I just looked it up. It was Ricky, but they called him Jupe, so I got it.
You got both right.
Yeah, I got both right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. One thing I did pick up on is, in terms of the monetization of it, the alien outfits that the kids wore were actually the same faces as the Panavision cameras that were shooting the scene where Gordy killed the family, but also obviously the lower bodies were a monkey. If you didn't realize that.
Yes.
One thing I also noticed is I thought as well it kind of discussed a little bit about animals for entertainment, which you kind of just touched on there a little bit. But essentially, obviously chatting about the obsession of entertainment, capturing the moment. The alien and the chip actually are very similar. When I kind of thought about it and more, that they were both animals being trained for entertainment. Right, so the alien realistically was consuming people and only stayed there because it sucked up that fake horse, which it didn't like. Right, but in terms of the alien obviously was getting fed.
Yeah.
And he was selling tickets to see that. Whereas the chimp obviously, the chimp obviously same thing, like it was being used for entertainment, but they both were being trained and they both essentially snapped and killed after retaliation, right? Both killed you if they looked you in the eye. And that's, I think, actually why Ricky Jupe, when that scene, and I actually said to you this to you on the way home, that shoe that was standing up, I was like, that's significant because it actually, and they discussed that if you look Gordy in the eye, you die, and that's what he said earlier in the film. When Gordy looked at Jupe as a kid under the table, he focused on that shoe, and that shoe came in focus, and that's why Gordy calmed down.
That's an interesting take on it. It makes complete sense now that you've said that.
If you look him in the eye, it kills you, and same with the alien. If you look him in the eye, and it kills you. But what I noticed Ricky did, or like Jupe, when obviously the alien starts sucking everyone up, he looks it directly in the eye. And I don't know if that was him thinking, fuck, maybe I'm special because the chimp, the Gordy didn't kill me.
Yeah.
And he viewed, it goes into play with the animals for entertainment. So he thinks maybe I'm special, whereas you have a complete parallel with OJ.
Yeah.
So OJ completely respects the animals. He's obviously a horse trainer. You've got the start of the film where he brings the horse on set. He's like, don't look it in the eye, don't stand behind it. He respects it. And it's the same with the alien, actually. He fully respects it. He doesn't try and do anything in general. He actually essentially tries to figure out what it does and go backwards from that.
Yeah.
So he figures out, you know what, it's doing this, it doesn't like this, let's do this. So everything, and I think funnily enough, obviously OJ survived, but I think it's kind of showing the parallels of animals used in entertainment. I could be completely wrong. This is obviously what Jordan Peele essentially aimed at, but I think that was one thing I kind of picked up on, or I personally thought.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of obviously wanted to touch on is Jordan Peele in his media always spoke about spectacle and bad miracles in the film. And all these films have a passage from the Bible before the movie, including Get Out, Us, and this. And the actual passage says, I will cast abominable filth upon you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle. Which if you put that after seeing the film, it makes complete sense, really.
Yeah.
Other than that, the other thing I also realized is the kind of film took a little bit full circle. Obviously, the dad actually died from a coin that went into his eye, and that's essentially where the film actually began. Whereas the sister essentially killed and captured the photo by using a coin. You notice that? And the exact same coin.
I didn't actually notice that at all.
It kind of came full circle. So what killed their father is essentially what allowed them to monetize that, because they're obviously going to sell those photos and make a fuckload of money of it. So
it's interesting.
That's what I kind of picked up. I don't know if the thing is, these are just my interpretations. I may be wrong, but obviously Jordan Peele was kind of, everything are in his films for a reason. That's what I've noticed with his previous ones and especially this. But other than that, I don't really have, I guess, too much to touch on apart from two other things. But I don't know if you...
Not much to touch on except everything else. But you kind of discussed the shoe a little bit and how it was a focal point so he could distract himself and not look at him in the eye, and then that allowed Gordy to calm down. Do you think the shoe had any kind of particular meaning itself? Because I thought about that a little bit.
I think it's a bad miracle.
That's exactly what I thought.
I think they talk about bad miracles, and that's what really kind of saved his life. When if you think about it, either that or the tablecloth, because the tablecloth was in front of him. So I'm not too sure. Could be both. But they really kind of focused on that shoe, and obviously he had that shoe in his museum, and that's what he sold the ticket to $50,000. So most people would have that happen in their life and fucking buckle almost, never talk about it, probably cry themselves to sleep 3 times a week thinking about it.
I love that scene. I love that
was
scene
really hard to watch. It was kind of horrifying. But the one thing I also noticed is with the director getting the impossible shot of prey being eaten by predator. When they talked to him on the phone, have you noticed everything that he was watching was prey getting eaten by predator?
Yep, 100%. Or the lion fighting the snake and things like that too.
And he's, thinking, fuck, this is a good shot, but a shot of prey actually getting eaten by predator from their point of view never exists. And I think that's obviously why he went up.
It was the money shot.
Yeah, it was the money shot. And it won't exist because you got sucked up, you fucking idiot. Yeah. The other thing I kind of picked on is, this is the last little kind of theory and thought I had is, obviously the film, and Jordan Peele's come out, obviously said the film's mainly about Hollywood and how people consume media and things like that. But one thing I wanted to talk about is I think it kind of stood for something in terms of people not getting recognized. You obviously have Keke Palmer's character talk about the fact that her great-great-great-grandfather was the first ever person technically on film who was the horse rider.
Yep.
And no one knew his name. They only knew the horse's name. One thing I noticed is when, at the end of the film, when OJ's doing something phenomenal, riding a horse away from an alien, taking it head on, he actually wore the orange Scorpion King jumper that actually on the back said crew.
Yeah.
And if you realistically think about any movie, Tom Cruise gets all the bravado about like Top Gun Maverick, right? But it's like the crew behind the scenes, no one would fucking know their name. No one would know their name. No one would give him props. And I think that I kind of picked up on that as well, because like you get this shot where he's riding away from the alien and it's POV of that, and you just see the massive crew on the back.
Yeah.
And I think it's
a great point that you touch on. And I think it's also important to, now that you've said that, it made me think of it, that you talk about recognition and, all the people not being recognized for all the hard work that goes into stuff. Jordan Peele may have also gone towards a racial recognition. It may have, because of its period of time where the film was set.
I think there was definitely a statement on race as well, because all the cast was kind of people of color. Obviously, you had like Angel. He was like, I think,
the IT guy.
No, I would say he's like I thought he was like a Mexican.
Yeah, I was a little unsure. I kind of just left that one, but
I'd probably get cancelled after that.
That's fair enough.
I thought it was people of color and recognition and things like that,
Correct.
obviously, as well. So, whereas everyone famous was all white people, funnily enough, like in the movie at the start, you've got the director, they were all white. So I definitely picked up on that. And I know obviously his other films like Get Out definitely talks about race. And Us does a little bit as well. It definitely does. There's a funny scene in that actually about it. But I agree. And I think that goes kind of hand in hand with obviously Hollywood. They're not exactly, you put them under a microscope of obviously racial vilification in the last 30 years, 150, like so on, still goes today. So I definitely picked up on that as well. And I thought that was sort of fantastic as well. But other than that, I don't really have too many other thoughts and interpretations at the moment. I probably will when I watch this film again when it comes out on Blu-ray or something like that. But other than that, did you really have anything to touch on for it? Or
no, not really. Going back, I guess, kind of half a throw to where you're talking about, it's the great use of the title of the film. So Nope, and the way they use it. I thought it was the most human-like reactions to every scenario that was happening too. Yeah. Where I thought that in the same situation when those little kids are dressed up, that my thing would be, get the out of there. I don't want to be there at all. Like I felt like it was very, very human, and something jumped out, and it was just like bang, like that's got to go. Like
I agree. Easy. Well, that's pretty much all I guess we have to touch on and time for this week. So I guess thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you for joining us for this week's review. This will go out earlier, kind of on all major podcast platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon as well. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Easy. Thanks, guys.